So yeah, just a little quick fun video as I seem to be walking through the magical fairy forest. Yeah, magical fairy fragrances, why not? Obviously fairies mean different things to different people, and I've quite a presence in folklore, from being mischievous, misguiding travellers, coming through from the fairy world to spread mischief and evil and disease. So obviously poorly babies were sacrificed to them to take them, to keep them alive and and all that jazz. So yeah, I think a lot of European folklore has some things about fairies. Not all good, not all bad, saying that either. So yeah, let's get started. So first up is a kind of obvious one for this time of year, and that's Thomas OBrien's Thorn. It's supposed to represent autumn as well, and it kind of does. It's like it's basically, I won't go into the notes and everything, but it's, you know, it's vetiver, it's greener notes, it's drier notes, it's kind of got this beautiful kind of, just a smell of autumn coming in, if you get what I mean. It's got this kind of, if you imagine walking out through this forest now, you've got all these kind of moist but still verdant, quite noticeable, quite magical smells. And it has that kind of, I always think of it as being outside the forest, and you get all them great wisps, a few of the dry flowers as they start to go, the dry leaves. But also, you know what it's like in autumn, it kind of rains and it's hot, and it rains and it's hot, and it gives this very kind of specific magical smell. I think that is only for autumn. Spring, the beginning of spring, you kind of get the same kind of thing, but it's not as rich. It's sweeter in spring, isn't it, because the flowers are coming through and not dying. But this one would perfectly suit a kind of magical green fairy who's going round changing the colour of the leaves, is getting ready to go to sleep for the winter, to come back in the spring, to turn all the leaves back and to put life into the grass and whatnot. So that's Thomas OBrien's Thorn for the green fairy. Next up is the naughty fairy, and it's a really kind of obvious choice for me for that, and that's Date with a Dame. Now the naughty fairy will be a kind of, obviously I've gone for kind of a Puck type character, Peck, Puck, whatever, I always mix them up. But that kind of cheeky, going about, creating mischief, winding people up, having a bit of fun, you know, perhaps tripping people over, like we said before, misdirecting people and all that sort of thing. What I've gone for with him is, or her, it is Date with a Dame. Now this one is one I've spoken about quite a lot. It's kind of a floral kind of, it's lovely tuberose and greener notes again, and a lovely muskiness. Now what's interesting about this one is it smells of cherry. There's no cherry in it, but it definitely has like this naughty cherry thing, and I think it kind of suits that cheeky, naughty, mischievous kind of fairy really well. Don't have a lot to add to that, but you know, if you're walking somewhere and you smell some cherry, expect disaster or something quite naughty to happen. Not really, but that's for the naughty fairy is Date with a Dame from One Way Bridge. So next on the list is the kind of the fairy queen, Titania, is who I've kind of based it round, or Titania, it's Titania, isn't it? From A Midsummer Night's Dream, this kind of boss figure, this kind of leader of the fairies, and kind of strong, inspiring, kind of decent, honourable fairy. And what I've gone for that is Nishane's 100 Silent Ways. And why I've gone for that is it is again tuberose again, but it's a much softer, kind of more elegant, floral, beautiful, easy tuberose. It's like it's kind of semi-gourmand, isn't it? It's very smooth, but it's very elegant, and it's very, could be very regal if you like, and it's just beautiful. And I think it would suit this kind of boss leader, inspiring kind of fairy. And yeah, there's no sort of bigger queen than Titania, is there? Anyway, so for a kind of boss fairy is Nishane's 100 Silent Ways. So next on the list is the Seductive Fairy, and what I've gone for that is Guerlain's Black Perfecto Le Petit Robe Noir. God, what a long name. And anyway, if you know this fragrance, it's kind of this very dark cherry fragrance, but it's got leather, it's got like a dark woods thing about it, it's got licorice in there, and it is everything you can imagine about some sort of seductive fairy, you know what I mean? Again, that cherry, isn't it? That kind of, that little bit of naughtiness. And like a seductive fairy would be like, I suppose you'd probably compare it to something like a siren. It would be one that would make you fall in love, or sort of be cheeky like that, or kind of entice you into being a bit naughty, kind of like a Cupid maybe, or kind of lure you down into a fairy tree where you'll never be able to leave and you'll have to breed a lot and that kind of thing. And this is that perfect kind of fragrance for that, because you wouldn't be able to resist it, I don't think. So yeah, for a seductive fairy is Guerlain's Black Perfecto Le Petit Robe Noir. Next is the Black Fairy. Not quite the same as the Seductive Fairy, and also not necessarily a kind of badass evil fairy, just a fairy that kind of wants to seduce you down into staying in the night. Should be one that will come out in the night, maybe around Halloween, just like a winter fairy as well, if you like, and just kind of keep you there, kind of gothy really, isn't it? Just to sort of bring you the stars and the deep dark blackness of the world. And what I've picked for her is Alien. It's that kind of dark, mysterious, alien, unusual jasmine, isn't it? Kind of smells of that kind of dark nights, doesn't it? And it's got the seductive quality that the dark has to you, the sort of mystery and intrigue about it, even the tiny bit of little fear that we kind of crave, and it's why we love the dark and being scared, etc. Not going to waffle on. So for the dark fairy, the black fairy, the fairy of night, is Mugler's Alien. And finally, this would probably be me if I was a fairy. It is the Pyromaniac Fairy, the fairy who likes to go around setting fires. She could be responsible for wildfires, all sorts of mysterious fires that appear. Also, you could look at it positively, of lighting the night sky, putting a bit of light out there. And an obvious one for that is Burning Cherry. Again, there's a lot of cherry in this one, isn't there? But Burning Cherry is that kind of incensey, singed, burning cherry amongst some lovely woods and sweeter notes. It's very red and it's very burning, quite obviously. It's such an obvious choice, isn't it? I don't think anything else would suit her better than Burning Cherry. So for the Pyromaniac, happy-go-lucky fairy who likes to have a lot of fun, would be Chiali's Burning Cherry. So yeah, this is kind of just a bit of fun, a bit of relief, a bit of nonsense, if you like, although it is very kind of good to imagine what fairies and stuff would wear I'm obviously into all this kind of magical, enchanted kind of mystery world, aren't I, and that. And after the last epic video that took forever and ever, still a bit of light relief in it, really. And yeah, short, brief, to the point. Don't need to waffle on. What about you? How would you scent these fairies? What do you imagine fairies getting up to? Do you think there's different types doing all sorts of nonsense and whatnot? Alright, thanks folks. Bye.